Good morning. Let's see. Do you want to admit people or make me a co-host? Oh, I think you're making me a co-host. I should be able to admit people. There we go. Thank you. Morning. Okay, thank you. Morning, AP.
Good morning, Brenda.
Morning, Erica and Paula. We have a few more people joining us, it looks like. We'll see here. Sun shining. It's a good day.
Good morning.
Morning, Erica. Check in here. Morning, Kathy. Got another couple joining. Morning, Jen. I'm just going to give it one more minute and then we'll go ahead and get started. I want to make sure once I get going, sometimes I forget to admit people. Okay. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. As you'll remember from last week, Charlie is at a training this week, so he will not be able to join us. But we have AP, who is also a resident expert on our project. And we have made some really great strides here, I think, in the last couple of weeks. So this week, the storm sewer installation on Howard will be completed if it hasn't already been completed. The yard hydrants and meter pit was installed at the intersection of Salem and Howard. The storm sewer will continue to be run north on Howard Street this week. Pavement removal has continued on Howard. The intersection that was at Salem and First, which was brought down to kind of a one-lane road, that has been opened up again. So it's now a two-way street, which is really great. They are going to complete the rough grading on Salem. Sub-prep work may start this Thursday, but that's going to be a little bit dependent upon whether we get that rain or not. So that's a kind of, we'll wait and see. And the installation of electrical conduits for the street lights on Salem started. So all really great progress items. These are all things that are kind of the midway point. So this is really good. Next week, they're going to start excavation for the rock chambers on Salem and Howard. They're going to install the sub drains, and they're going to install this rock and sub base. And then they'll continue to do the work on the electrical conduits. So it'll be on Salem and then eventually on Howard once they complete the excavation work. So really great progress this week, and next week will be another Parabot, I guess, completion date, because a lot of that has to be done before they can start replacing the sidewalks, the roads, and all of that stuff. So really, I think great progress. What they're planning in the future, for phase one, we have some outstanding items that need to still be completed. The site furnishings, which are benches, trash receptacles, are expected to be placed on April 29th, or at least beginning on that date of April 29th. So I think that's the end of this week. Obviously, weather, depending upon if it's just Thursday or if it's Thursday and Friday. And then the plantings, they're expected to start work on that on May 9th. And I know they've been looking at, I think that's really dependent on how cold it gets at night. And we've had some pretty cold nights still. So stay tuned on that, but their expectation is around May 9th. So that'll start making it look nice in that phase one area. Also in the future, they're expected to start roadway paving, which again, another milestone. They've tore it all up. They've replaced all the infrastructure, and that means that they can start putting the pavement back down. And this is where it gets really exciting, I think. They're expected to start that the week of between May 9th and 16th. Just kind of depends on how some of these other things fare out, but it's still great progress. So what that means is they're going to start with the travel lanes and the curbs, And if you'll remember last week, we talked about the replacement process. It's curbs, then it's roads, then it's pavers, then the sidewalks. So keep that in mind as you might see them working on these projects. They're planning on pouring back the intersection of Salem and First. So that's on the east side on Salem. And then they're going to pour back the sidewalk on the north side of Salem to the alleyway. So not in front of any business, but that would be the sidewalk that will be poured back from basically First to that Salem alleyway. So that's good news. And then they're going to also start installation of pavers. So again, as we think about this, these are some of the major milestones that we've all been looking forward to. I know you're all going to be asking about the sidewalks and the sidewalks that would impact businesses. They're expecting the installations that would go in the front of any of the businesses to start on Salem, probably late May, early June. So those are sort of the targets that they've set today. Now, obviously, this could get changed. I'm really excited to hear this good news, but it also could be changing a little bit depending upon how some of these other projects lay out. But I think you could kind of look for that work to start in front of your businesses on end of May, early June. They will give you a week notice. So you'll know ahead of time as to when they might begin this work. And then they'll at that time inform you of any expected, other, what do you call it? Any other issues that may, you may need to shut down for or whatever. They're probably going to ask also if you plan on shutting down that time when they're installing the sidewalk in front of your business. I know what they learned from the first phase one was that it went a lot faster if businesses were to shut down for that, 3 to 4 day period versus the construction crew having to kind of work around the open dates and trying to make it work. So it's something for you all to be thinking about as we move into that direction. Obviously, next week we'll have another update. So if there's any adjustments or changes to this timeline, you guys are going to hear about it before the end of May or early June. But I think that's a good target for you to start, planning that. AP, am I missing anything? Did I muck anything up? I tried to be really tidy on my notes from yesterday's construction meeting, so I didn't forget anything.
No, thank you, Brenda. I think you covered it well. Mostly, like you mentioned, mostly for the next 2 or 3 weeks, they are working towards the pavement, which is basically, like Brenda mentioned, they're working on the subgrade, sub-drains, rock chambers. Those are all structures of the pavement underneath the pavement. Once they finish up the subgrade preparation, they will be working towards finishing the pavement, which is the concrete pavement, basically on the week of May 9th or May 15th. And once it is done, we have discussed about trying to see whether we can open up Salem Avenue between First and Howard. So once we open that up, Ashland will be closed between First and Howard. So basically you'll have road closures on Ashland between First and Howard, and then on Buxton between Salem and Ashland. So once Salem is opened up, so you'll basically have 2 more road closures once Salem is opened up. The only thing that we were discussing is whether to, when we open up Salem Avenue, whether to finish the sidewalks after the road is opened up, or whether we can keep it closed and still finish the sidewalk. Either way, we'll keep you posted as things progresses. as far as the sidewalks are concerned, as Brenda mentioned, the sidewalks move faster if it is all done together rather than doing a few properties at a time. So we expect things are moving faster. Hopefully, with the weather cooperates us, and if the weather doesn't, so the things will go slow. But so far, no other surprises we have encountered no other surprises. Things are going good. If everything goes well, like I said, late May or early June is when we will plan to see the pavement opened up.
So that would be the road between First and Howard, that pavement. Correct.
Yep.
Which would be really great. But as you mentioned, if they open up that intersection, then you would be closing the intersection at Ashland and
First, Ashland and
Howard. Yeah. So stay tuned on that. They are also going to be doing some investigation of the CenturyLink duck tank or duck bank, I guess is what it's called. Because we found that at First and the intersection of First and Salem. And so they're going to do the investigation to see if CenturyLink would also need to move that duck bank as well. So they're going to get ahead of that one. So that, shouldn't delay the project once they get into Ashland any further. So I think that's also really good news. All right. So that is what we have for an update for you guys. Do you guys have any questions?
If we can just go back to the sidewalk on the north side of Salem. So obviously that would be the sidewalk in front of that parking lot, right?
Correct.
Considering that is cutting off pretty much pedestrian access, can you just clarify a little bit the timeline on that? Is that at one time they had talked about because there isn't pedestrian access, because that is currently closed off and you're having to kind of walk through a parking lot, then into the alleyway to get to the sidewalk there where the building starts. And even like right now with a trailer in the alley, it's just a little bit tricky. So you're kind of maneuvering through the parking lot around a trailer, then trying to get to the sidewalk. Is there any plans to make that particular sidewalk a priority, considering that we've lost the public access walkway in that area?
The answer is yes. When they can start working in that area. Now, AP, help me with this. The plan was to go from First to the alleyway immediately because there was no disruption. But I'm not 100% certain why they didn't also just go ahead and do that north side on Salem's sidewalk, just clear up to On the Rocks. I don't know if there was any discussion on that I can remember.
So there's the reason why they are doing the sidewalk is there's no rock chambers. So when I say rock chambers, there's permeable paving, permeable pavers in front of businesses for on-street parking. So north side of the Salem Avenue between First and the alleyway is the only location that doesn't have any permeable pavers. So there's also a small amount of paving on the south side of Salem Avenue, just west of the intersection of First Street, that also doesn't have any permeable pavers. So that is the reason why they selected to do the sidewalk, because there's no impact with rock chambers. So rock chambers implies that there's going to be chamber underneath the permeable pavers that has to go really deep. You have to dig in deep and install those 3 or 4 feet deep rock chambers. On this case, the first block where we are starting the sidewalk doesn't have any permeable pavers, and therefore they wanted to start this early and finish it off on time. So we are hoping that this work will be done, completed in 2 or 3 weeks. And during that time, all pedestrian activity has to be shifted. They have to move around, either going around the square. We may have some signage that we will post for all the businesses impacted by this. So they will have to go around the square. So this is the small phase when they will be shut off for pedestrian connectivity, but they always will have connectivity either from the west or, if not two-way, but they will have connectivity from Howard Street towards all the businesses on Salem. You know, they will not have access from First Street, from the parking lot. Like you said, they may have to step into the alley to access it, but they will be a small phase when the sidewalk will be completely shut off.
So, go ahead.
I can follow up on that too. The area they're talking about pouring back at the north side of Salem is the area that's already behind the fence. So we're not going to be disrupting that pedestrian traffic at this point. So we'll pour that section back. And again, that goes because we also need to have the pavers installed before we can complete the rest of the sidewalk in front of the businesses. So the goal is where the fence is currently now on the north side of Salem, and as it goes into the intersection, we'll pour back all the concrete in that area. So that way it's a cleaner walking surface for everyone to get around. And then we can pull the fence back into, so people aren't walking out into First Avenue. Everyone, that we're going to establish the pedestrian crossing there, and then that north sidewalk to help kind of the flow as it comes through. And after we do that, we'll pull the fences in so there's a little bit better walking surface as it goes forward. And yeah, and we're doing that first again because we don't have to install the pavers to pour those back. So we're trying to open that up as fast as we can.
Erica, I think what you're saying is that you know, you have the three different businesses, and then 4 if you include On the Rocks. And so if I understood you correctly, Chad, for people to access any one of those businesses during that, when they're pouring back that the sidewalk, even if it's just to the alley or to the alleyway, the public's gonna have to go from the alleyway that runs east and west. And then they're gonna have to walk all the way around to get to, let's just say, Roots Reclaimed, which is Erica's second business. Correct?
Yeah, I would have to confirm that, but I would assume so. We want to pour that whole run in one shot. It just will make it faster. So I would assume that's what it'd be. So once that whole north side, so from the alleyway to Howard, when that piece comes out, yeah, that would have to be accessed from the north side of the square for a short time until we can get it back open.
And then typically, for not our knowledge, that is what, typically 3 to 4 days. What I'm trying to get at is how can Erica's group plan for this?
Yes, that it would be about 3 to 4 days for closure. I think one of the things by doing such a longer stretch, it's going to go faster. So hopefully it'll be faster than that, but it would be probably a minimum of 4 days of, because they have to remove it, grade it, kind of establish it, and then pour it back. And then usually the day after, there's a little bit of cleanup, but then that sidewalk will be open.
Erica, did that answer your question?
Well, I think the main concern is not so much from the alleyway to Howard. Thus far, the main concern has been from the alleyway to First. So the sidewalk that runs directly in front of that parking lot is the pedestrian access that's currently blocked. I completely understand pouring back, absolutely, from the alleyway to Howard. That makes sense, and I knew that would be part of the process. But thus far, the obstacle has been that there's no pedestrian access from the alley to First. So basically what runs right along that parking lot. That was what I'm trying to figure out, what that timeline is, given that we're looking at, when you're talking end of May to beginning of June. I guess the question is that particular section, which gives pedestrian access that we don't have right now, going to be earlier in the phase, as was discussed early on, just so people can walk down the pedestrian access clear to On the Rocks? I'm understanding that there's going to be a shutdown when the sidewalk itself is poured back in front of our businesses, but that's not the concern. The concern is from First, basically, clear down to On the Rocks. When is that going to be entirely open so people can walk, all the way down the street?
Yeah, that will be open. That's the section we're talking about being poured back here, starting the week of May 9th. So that'll be done hopefully by the end of that week. Again, weather dependent. So that section, so you'll have almost full access along that stretch from May 9th, as soon as they can open that up. And then it'll have to be shut down from the alleyway to Howard once they're ready to report that other sidewalk. So that should be open here hopefully by the end of May 9th, the week of May 9th.
Perfect. That answers my question.
Great.
I have a question too. My neighbor at Groggy Dog had a great idea and approached Charlie, I believe, about opening up some parking spots in front of our buildings on the north side that was previously a crosswalk over to the courthouse. We obviously are not using that crosswalk anymore. So the city came out yesterday and turned that area into 2 additional parking spots. So I commend the city for listening to him, because I think it was a great idea and it created a couple more spots for us. My question is it, would it be possible to keep that side of the square, the north side, at the current parking angle that it is, instead of parallel parking? I mean, that side of the road has so many restaurants, and we really need every spot we can have. So, I mean, are we early enough in the game from going to that side that we could divert the plan a little bit and keep the regular parking? Because we've seen how parallel has eliminated tons of spots, and it continues to be an issue. So what are the thoughts on that?
Well, I'd have to defer to AP on that.
Thank you for that question. Chad, you may help me with this, but basically at this stage, the design plans for the concepts, I came in later after the construction plans were all given to us. My understanding is it came to the downtown committee to a point where it was decided that the angle parking will be on the inside of the square and parallel parking along the outside of the square. That was what was decided. Now at this stage, it is kind of, I think it's and Chad, you may correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of late for that discussion where everything has been designed, stormwater, your inlets, everything has been designed based on with basically parallel parking on the outside and angle parking on the inside, so I don't know whether I'm giving you the right answer, but that's what the design was accepted by the downtown committee and the council, and basically that's what was agreed upon. So Chad, can you help me out?
Yeah, you're 100% correct, AP. At this point, we're not changing those things. It would be a major redesign. We've discussed this 3 times between various different groups. So the design is going to stay as it is. But there might be some temporary solutions where it's slightly different, but going forward, the final design per our direction from the city and all of our conversations is that it's going to remain the way it is.
If I understand correctly, the north side of the courthouse, the side where the cars enter in with the inmates, there's no parking there, correct? So you say there's angle parking on the insides of the square, but not on the north side. There's none, correct?
There is a short run. I don't know. I would have to look at the plans to figure out exactly how many spots, but that's where the county building design put their loading dock and their underground entryway. So that's absorbed a lot of those spots. So it's not fully running, but about, I would say 50% of that block will have parking kind of from about mid-block east to the edge of towards Howard. There'll be some angle parking spots in there.
Okay, yeah, because the about the middle of the way to the west is all like the entrance into the parking lot. So that design takes up a lot of parking spots as well. That was the only reason I was concerned about the parallel doesn't seem to be working that great. So I thought, and I understand designs have been done and so forth, but I didn't know if there was any room for adjustment since we're learning as we go what works and what doesn't. And I liked the additional spots that were just put in temporarily. It helps. Every little bit helps at this point.
Yeah, I mean, so like Chad mentioned, it's a huge change in design concept where basically it'll be a major change. For instance, I'll give you for a parallel parking, you have roughly about 8 feet or 10 feet width. Compared to our angle parking, you have roughly about 16 to 17 feet of width that's needed. So if you swap it, basically that's going to impact the intersection design at basically Howard and Ashland. It's going to, the intersection legs will not be aligned properly. So you're going to have a huge impact as far as the intersection alignment, stormwater design. So it's a major shift in design if we at this time, if we change anything in terms of the parking configuration there.
Good question, though.
Hey, this is Kathy. I have a question. Will you be replacing the sidewalks south of Salem on Howard, where the street is torn out?
So when you say south of Howard, yeah, we should be in between Howard and First Salem Avenue. Is that
no,
the question?
No, the sidewalks on Howard, just south of Salem.
So the project, I think, continues till half a block or 1/3 a block. So there's certain amount of sidewalk that will be replaced on Howard, south of Salem, but not the entire block. If that's your. So
Okay.
Chad, you remember?
Placed at the same time as the rest of the sidewalks, or is that going to be done at a different time?
So Chad, do you know when will we get to that sidewalk on Howard Street, south of Salem?
I'm not sure of the schedule on that. We will be tying it and matching that. I assume that'll be coming through once we get the curb lines established for the intersection. And kind of do the bump outs for the new planter gardens and those things. I would assume sometime probably June is I would say by sometime the middle of June, we'll work on that. I think the goal from the contractor was to get Salem open and get the travel ways in here May 9 and really start looking at doing sidewalks here towards the end of May on Salem to get that all back open. They haven't really, if everything goes well, it'll be sooner, but I would assume probably about the middle of June when that intersection and Howard paving get started and hopefully done.
Great, thank
Okay, any other questions? I was looking in the chat here. I don't see anything in the chat. All right, anything at all? Keep your fingers crossed that, I am impressed. I will have to say that even last week when we had that rain, they were out there tearing up streets and doing some of that work that they could do even when it was wet. So that was enlightening to see. Even it looked to me like a big mud puddle, but they were able to get a lot of work done. So that's good news. But knock on wood, we start drying up a little bit, and that's going to help with the sidewalk installations as we go forward. So. Okay, unless there's any other questions, we will keep you posted for the next week. It'll be next Wednesday at 8:30.
Thank you.
All right, bye, everybody.
Bye.